Welcome to Balance Boldly, the podcast where we get bold about our balance and campaign to shake the shame that stunts our growth. I'm your host, Naketa, Thigpen, balance and relationship advisor for bold women in business and a few brave men. This is a special 4-part series that we have coming up right now. You're about to embark on our first compilation of the best, where we take the narratives and solo casts that I've done, mixing with the greatest expert advice we have from our featured experts that we've had from Balance Beam Days, which you guys know was the first podcast a couple years ago, as well as Balance Boldly, some interview nuggets that I've done. We've just literally taken the best of the best and put them together in this special Dreamers and Doers series. This is for all of you bold women and brave men that are out there that are just trying to take that dream in your head, believe in it, plan for it, do it, and then preserve your success so you can start it all over again and do it at another level, a greater level, breaking free from all the expectations of everyone else that has a hold on you doing things the same way and getting the same result. So stay tuned and listen up, because we're doing right now a 4-part series for the dreamers and doers out there that are ready to embark on their bold and brave. Let's go. I just welcome you in this moment to think about why you deserve your success, because you do. You've earned it just by the mere fact that you are here and you are willing to be open to the possibility of limitless success in the first place.
Just being able to find that balance is very important. You know, there has been a lot of transition, and with each move, you're right, there has been more responsibility, more, budgetary, financial responsibility through my job and my position. So with that comes more stress or more, days that are longer. But just really trying to find that balance. I am a planner, so I really need to look at what my day is going to look like, and that depends on what else I can do. I try not to overbook myself, but I also try to find ways to, get some good me time in, be it a massage or go get my eyebrows waxed or, a pedicure or something like that out of the week, and I make sure I exercise and kind of relieve stress that way. So just really trying to get that balance and focus on what's good for me, because what's good for me might not be good for you. So just really looking at, okay, when I feel my stress level, getting a little high, okay, I got to restructure some things and move things around like chess pieces to make sure that I'm still in the game. Because if I'm down, and out of the game, there's going to be a problem, because it's just me, right, doing this, this whole thing. So it's just so important to really look at the big picture and be flexible. Everything doesn't have to be A, B, and C. Sometimes I go from A to Z, to get things done, and just being really flexible with yourself and not overdoing it, and just knowing what your limitations are and your boundaries.
It is the hardest part about niching, about, defining, about all that, is because it's so scary.
Yeah.
You're thinking, oh, my God, if I label my niche as 24 to 34-year-old females, then you're like, oh, what about the potential of reaching out to everybody else? Like, will they, am I limiting myself? We dealt with that as well. Like, with our Indie Dicks category, we wanted so badly for men to be involved. But at the end of the day, it's like you have to niche in order to be successful, because not only does it help, first of all, your readers or your viewers or your followers or your listeners will understand better. They'll understand where they're at, who they're listening to, whatever, better, because it's the more or the better you're defined, the better they know where. Like, I like to walk into a store and know where I'm at,
Right.
I hate walking into a store and be like, what is this? Because it's down, and it takes away from me experiencing the store. So it's really like but it's so hard, because you're like, makes you vulnerable. You're like, oh my God, but what about that 23-year-old? Or what about that 36-year-old? Or what about the guy? Or what about the married one that has this? But you know what? If you don't worry about them, a good chunk of them will still listen.
I think that it's important to be able to, well, not important, I think it's a blessing to be able to do what you would do even if you weren't getting paid for it.
That's right.
Like, I love singing to that extent, so that I would do it and have done it even if I wasn't getting paid for it. Mm-hmm. So it's just been, a blessing to be able to do that and be able to now be at a point where I can move forward with it and see the benefits of the fruit of it.
My challenge was always in the planning stage. I needed to plan for me, not for the me times 10 that I would assume I would be the next morning. I do believe I have superpowers. I really do believe that. And we can get into that conversation another time. But sometimes I overextend my superpower because of poor planning. And I always have to back up and say, oh, Naketa, why did you plan to do 12 recordings today when really you needed to cap it at 5? Especially when you have 20 other things to do. You have a speaking engagement, a public speaking class to teach, and blah, 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 blah. The whole list goes on. On the other side, I could easily, if I had been the other type of person that just wouldn't commit to anything, I could just keep planning to one day plan. I'm a plan to plan when I'm going to potentially doing it. Instead of saying, a friend of mine, Suzanne Gee, she's going to love this shout out. She says, instead of one day, someday, it's now. So stop saying like one day I will, someday I will. It's now.
But what we've been doing lately, which has been tremendously helpful, is I kind of set hours. There is not set like a normal 9 to 5. I can't say that I shut down at 4:30 and, now it's, cookie cutter, let's go bake a cake. It's definitely not like that. But I will shut down at least within a half an hour to an hour if I'm getting home. And he works a traditional, it's not really a 9 to 5, it's more like a 16 to 8 hour job. But he works a regular job plus he's a VP of our company. So I'll shut down about an hour after he gets home, just enough time to cook dinner, sit, eat, pray. Everything's okay, good. Then he's back on the laptop. I'm back downstairs in the office at the computer, and the kids are kind of trailing between the two of us to see what we want. And we might not have any intimate time till 3 a.m. in the morning when the whole house is quiet and I can't get on email. That's the only time to get it in. But we definitely want to make sure we have time for each other, so I understand.
I go back to my word mojo, making our journey outstanding, and that transition is going to happen in every area of our life. You get married, that's a transition. You have kids, that's a transition. So transition doesn't have to be a bad thing, but being able to open up and really accept the transition and the change, and some things may not go the way you anticipated, but being able to be flexible and just open to it. And you'll look back a couple of years later and say, oh, that was easy, that's how you do it, and really learn from the process and just live in your truth.
Yeah, it's not an easy journey, and from a time perspective, from a health perspective, from an emotional perspective, but you have to find the moment, as my mother would say, to stop and smell the roses.
So many of us are walking around, me included at times, because we all vacillate into that negative dark space at times. What if you succeed? That's a question that many of us won't come to on our own without being pushed because of some really uncomfortable stimulus that happened in our life, some breakdown moment that pushed us to say, I got to do something different. Why haven't I done it already? Well, I was afraid of falling or failing or rejection or losing money or losing time or losing, additional resources that may not necessarily be specific money or whatever the case is, right? So we'll go down the rabbit hole of all the not so good reasons for doing something. But the question you should ask is, what if you succeed? And the reason that many of us won't ask that question is because then we literally have to make room for the success that we said we want. I didn't put an expectation on it, which is the wrong way to do anything, especially when you want to publicly manifest that you've done something.
So, there's this fear of, okay, now I've done all the research, I've got this great product, now I've got to get it out into the world. Are people going to like it? Are they going to hate it? Because at the end of the day, you're still an artist, right? So you're still subject to criticism. And, all of the running the business on top of that. So I often find some of the creative things that I love doing the most, which is the reason why I wanted to start my own business, or the things that end up sliding to the bottom, because those are the things I know I can, send out to somebody else and work jointly or freelance somebody out, and then, tell them what my ideas are, but they can draw it on the piece of paper for me, when that's what I love to do. But unfortunately, you have to also run your business. So when you come to running your business and meeting new clients or meeting new factories and, dealing with your CPA and your lawyers and all of those things, like that's the job that only you can do.
Yeah.
So, it definitely starts on this balance, like, okay, what do I have to send out so I can be successful, and what can I keep, and how do you keep propelling forward when you're just one person?
People always think I'm really outgoing, and I really decided to become outgoing because I was a very shy, quiet child. Mm-hmm. And I decided that once I started working that the people who made a lot of money were extroverts. Mm-hmm. So I turned myself into an extrovert. But if I had my druthers, I would sit in my house and read and never speak to anyone.
Oh,
I'm sure you find that hard to believe. But it's true.
I do find it hard to believe because I've met you. So I'm like,
yes.
Really?
But that's really what I would rather do, is just sit in my house and read. If someone would pay me to read all day, I would do that and not speak to anyone. That would be what I would love to do. But, I knew early on that I had to do something more. I had to change the way I was a little bit. And people who knew me, like pre-high school, will meet me now and, see me again and be like, what happened to you? Because you never spoke. Who heard your voice?
Wow.
Now, I'm totally different than what I used to be.
I genuinely believe that if you allow yourself to blossom, you can even be admiring other people, all you want. If you allow yourself to blossom, it is inevitable for you, even with the most identical message, to blossom into something slightly different.
There's the other side of those people, like I said, who could also be stuck in their dream because they're not moving at all. They're just kind of like, oh, well, I think my dream is to have a business. I think my dream is to become, the VP or the executive or the senior level, or to take the skills that I have here and take it to this other company that I'm really interested in doing, or to support a nonprofit. But they're always in this kind of, I think, I'm not sure, what if I do and it doesn't work, and they never move. Both of those type of people at very different extremes of the continuum can get stuck if they don't start believing in the possibilities of what can happen if they do things first, period, second, efficiently.
Absolutely. You can say that twice. With enjoying what you have, because at any moment you could not have it. And I'm not trying to be morbid, but, just not talking about the reality that we're all going to leave this earth one way or another. But even in just your health, like we take advantage of the fact that you can, you got up at whatever time, at 4 something in the morning, if not earlier, and went to hot yoga at 5:30 in the morning. There are some people that take 2 hours just to get out of the bed because of circumstances that they can't control, or have a hard time going to the ladies' room, or, they don't have those necessarily mobility issues, but they have challenges they have migraines that shut them down on a regular basis. And we do take for granted what's available to us to get done what we need to get done every day. Like we just assume that we're going to hang up from this podcast and go along our plans, and everything could change in a moment. So you do have to take advantage of what's happening and be grateful for all of those things. I completely agree. But I guess it was, clearly something that would come into fruition, and something that would have to take on and understand, because we're in our rebranding. And I have definitely gone through I don't want to, send out a message that looks contrary to what I started, because we're not clear on how we want to say it. We know what we're doing. We know what we value, but we need to communicate it so people aren't offended. And we finally just got to this place where we were really like, listen, Naketa Thigpen is a personality and a half. I've been this way since birth. I can make you laugh. I can make you cry. I can make you want to hate me. It's just part of who I am, and all my nuances, and how I look crazy at the camera, and I'm looking all over the place and super expressive. The planners and the doers are who I work best with because they're ready to implement a strategic plan. They're trying to get things together and gather the information. And obviously the doers, my gift is activation. So that's the main place that I want to be. And I had to see where I was best at. Where was I best at in that to get the most out of what I was putting in to make sure I could bring it out of the other person. And we can work with dreamers and believers. We have things for them, but that's more passive. So it was really finding where I was best at to work with it.
It is time for you to stop refusing those things that you've been asking for, those things that you are afraid to commit to, because what we're going to talk about today are why are you afraid to commit? Why are you not pushing through? Why are you not opening the door and inviting change in to literally sit at your table and give you the guidance that you've been claiming that you want? And I mean this in your life, your relationships, and your business, because it affects us in all of those areas, on every platform. I know it affects me, and I have to remind myself, listen for the knock. You've been asking the question. The knock is right there. Now that you hear it, don't sit there staring at the door on the other side, like frozen. Move, get up, wake up, and go after whatever it is that you claim you've been wanting.
Where my head went automatically was thinking that I probably set unrealistic expectations on myself. And I guess that serves me in some ways because I'm pretty driven and will just keep going at it. But I think that it also sets me up for disappointment. And I think maybe that gets back to what I mentioned earlier about feeling having to remember what it is I've achieved, because once I achieve it, it's like, okay, that's done, but there's this that I need to do, and there's this that I need to do. So I don't celebrate enough, I guess, what I achieve, and I tend to forget about it until somebody brings it up, like you just said.
Yeah, it was a fun challenge. It was, after writing the wellness journal, creating that, I wanted to share it with everyone. And doing the 30 days was part of my thought process. I wanted to tap into, women really being able to sit down and really find their truth and find out what was going on with them, not necessarily having to share it, with anybody else, but really sitting down and taking some me time and focusing on what they needed and what they wanted and where they wanted to go. One of the questions was write a letter to someone that you need to forgive, so simple things like that we think about but we don't do.
It's kind of like, okay, well, I need you to do this, and if you don't do that, there's the consequence. And a lot of it has to do with me knowing my limit, how long I can stay, and how much I can take, and it's no one has to change.
That is my definition of balance. Like, I get that from people all the time. Well, there is no such thing as work-life balance. I'm like, yeah, it is. It's customized for you. All balance is your truth, your real truth, over your boundaries. That's all it is. Making sure that you are standing in that and that you're making sure you're dividing up your time, your energy, and your resources with the appropriate boundaries. Otherwise, you fall into other people's expectations to use where you're going. And you mess up all kinds of deadlines because you're overextending and overcommitting and now regretting the give. I hope you guys enjoy that. I want to take a moment and thank you, our listeners, for taking a moment out of your day and allowing me to plant positive seeds in your life, your relationships, and your business. As always, if you like what you hear, please subscribe, rate, and share this podcast to help us ensure that the bold and brave have access to these valuable balance tools. If you are not already a member, come on over and join the community of investors who have decided to see into themselves and balance boldly. Learn how to maximize your potential and your profits over at the Dreamer's Blueprint, a community designed for bold women and brave men who are ready to balance all that matters. boldly in their life. Follow me at Balance Boldly on Twitter and IG and come and engage with me. I continue the conversation over here from our virtual kitchen and Balance Boldly right over there on social media. And for those of you who are already in the pilot phase of the Dreamers Blueprint, as we're opening our doors, or about to open our doors to the main, shebang of the Dreamers Blueprint, you already know that we're already carrying these conversations in really powerful and intimate ways. And now we're about to let other people that are also claiming to be bold and brave, ready to move beyond their dream and into this new level and new phase into their lives, to join in on the conversation and have a community of accountability, holding them to the integrity of the things they said that they want to achieve in their lives. So if that's you, come on over and join us there at dreamersblueprint.com as well. Until then, I will see you next time on the next side of Balance Boldly podcast. So enjoy the balance of your day, but do it boldly.